Alrighty, vegan cyclists. All right, we're talking stages 16 and 17 of the Tour de France. Stage 16 was a relatively flat stage. It was classified, I think, as like a medium mountain stage, maybe. What happened was that straight from the rest day, you basically jammed right into a big climb. And so Michael Matthews and Team Sunweb just like pinned it so hard on the first climb to try to drop all the big sprinters. And it totally worked. They absolutely shattered the group. And so Kittel was off the back with a little bit of a gap when they started to run into like headwinds. These headwinds kind of started to split up the field really early on in the race, like 120 kilometers out from the finish. Sunweb was just pinning it, dude. They were on the front crushing it. And so then that was pretty much the story of the whole race, was just that split. Kittel way off the back, Matthews way up front. And then in the last like 16 kilometers, the wind got so bad. It was just ripping. And so then that tore through the peloton. Team Sky, like there was this huge battle of teams trying to be to the front when the wind was gonna come, and Sky just nailed it, dude. They got to the front, turned the screws. Fabio Aru was actually the one getting dropped. Like he was the man getting split off. And I don't even know how they like cut away for a minute, and so you couldn't see it because there was a wreck. They cut away, and so I don't know how Fabio Aru got back on, because he was like getting, you know, peeled off. The only person that really missed out on this move was Dan Martin. Just, you know, honestly, in these crosswinds, there's just not enough room for you to do a lot, right? Like, it's not necessarily you being a bad rider or not fit or whatever. It's just sometimes, dude, there's just only a certain amount of guys that are gonna make it. You know what I mean? And so Dan Martin gets split. He tries so hard to like get back on, but it's just not happening. And they got a lot of flack for this, because Quick-Step split their guys and tried to send some guys back to Kittel to try to bridge that gap between the front group and the back group early on. And then so those guys were way out the back, right? So they didn't have a full squad to try to help Dan Martin and get up and bridge that gap in the last little bit. The finish of this stage was super crazy, very, very technical. And so they come in, Greg V, dude, I'm so bad with these names, so I'm not even gonna give it a try. GV, he goes long, like he wants to get into this little S first. And I don't really know, I don't understand. He basically just let it out because they hit the headwind, and Michael Matthews just on his wheel, like looking around. He goes, Michael Matthews wins. Degenkolb gets all mad because he impeded his line. Really I didn't see that. And Bosenhagen, dude, he was coming so fast and barely gets second. Almost had the win. Really exciting stage in the last, you know, whole stage, really. Now that I think about it, it's actually really exciting because of what Sunweb did in the very beginning on the first climb to split off Kittel, and then the wins. Whew. All right, so let's talk about winners and losers of stage 16. I'm gonna say winner Aru, because he was so in jeopardy into getting not making the split. Like he was not making the split, and he doesn't really have a team to help him, so he had to spend so much energy to try to stay up front, and so that was a good piece of riding by Aru for sure to make that split in the headwinds or the crosswind. Another winner, Sunweb, Michael Matthews. Dude, Sunweb put it all on the line for Michael Matthews, and he delivers the win. Barely, but he totally does it. So that's super cool. But they played such a smart race to know the profile, know the climb that's coming up, know Kittel's probably not gonna make it over it, know about the wins, the crosswinds. I mean, dude, as a team, you couldn't really play it better than what Sunweb did on this stage. Loser, George Bennett. Everyone was rooting for this guy. He was like in the top 10, and he slipped to the top 11, but he was always there for the GC. He ended up getting some sort of stomach issue or just getting sick, and very early on in the stage was way off the back. Ended up pulling the plug, just out with illness, and it just happens, man. So bummer for George. Biggest loser of the day though is Quick-Step, because not only do they lose a ton of points in the green jersey chase, right? Because Kittel is nowhere there. He's not for the first intermediate sprint. He's not there for the final sprint. Michael Matthews pulls within 30 points of that green jersey. So Quick-Step is losing their hold on the green jersey. But then you know, Dan Martin, they have a horse in the running for the yellow jersey. And by them doubling down and trying to split their efforts and help Kittel and Dan Martin, they really messed up big time, because then Dan Martin got caught in that split and didn't have a full squad to help bring him across. So man, you just, such a bummer, dude, that Dan Martin works so hard to make up time on really hard technical stages and then just loses it in the crosswinds. All right, let's talk about stage 17, which was pretty exciting. If you watched the whole thing, it was really exciting from the gun. So basically it started off super fast, and everyone was trying to get into the initial break because it was gonna be, again, a really long day. And that's something that you don't, when you only watch like the last couple K or just the highlights of a stage, you don't realize that so many guys are in jeopardy of not making the time cut, that they have to try to go in the break, or they have to go so hard in the beginning just to make it within the time cut, especially on these huge mountainous stages. There's a huge wreck where everyone just blows apart, and Steve Cummings goes literally spiraling into space. The winner of the stage was in this wreck, and Warren Barguil was in this wreck, Kittel in this wreck, and then so Kittel's in this wreck, he's really busted up, he tries to get back on his bike, his like clip is messed up, his shoe's messed up. It was just a mess for Kittel. On the next climb, Quintana attacks, doesn't really go anywhere, kind of just gets brought back instantly. And then Contador attacks, Quintana goes with him, Contador gets a pretty good gap, but then Quintana just blows up and goes back. And now this was kind of the story of the whole race, was Contador. And he railed it, dude. There was a huge group up front with a lot of his teammates, and he made a massive effort to bridge up to the breakaway. Now, on the Lance Armstrong Stages podcast, he was saying that there was some reports that Contador did the fastest time ever up that first initial climb, which is not unreasonable to think that that's possible. I mean, he was mashing it. And he ends up getting up to the front group, like kind of leapfrogging all the breakaway splinters, gets up to the group. He has two guys working for him, Molimer just mashing the pedals for him. They are roasting. And then Contador has a mechanical. And it's like, you know what I mean? He was going all in. And so he gets a new bike, has to bridge like 20 or 30 seconds back onto the group. Basically, the whole front of the race is Serge Pauwels and Roglic. But those guys had to close basically a 5-minute gap, right? So Contador's like on the rivet once he gets to these guys, and they kind of start counterattacking each other. Eventually, Roglic goes, Contador can't follow, which is such a bummer, because without that mechanical, I think that Contador could have done something. So Roglic and Darwin Harapuma ends up getting over the top. Roglic was by himself, and he basically just solos off to the win. In the main group, though, Dan Martin was attacking all the time, just attack. And then it would settle down, everyone come back together, and then Bardet would attack. And the whole time that they were doing this, Aru just kept getting like, dropped off the back. And so then they get right to the top. Warren Barguil goes, gets some points, which is crazy because he was like dropped a bunch of times. Right at the top, Bardet like attacks, and they get over the top with Bardet, Barguil, Froome, and Rigoberto Urán. And then Dan Martin's like right there, like right on them in like the first couple turns. And then, I don't know, the camera work really wasn't that great. And Mikel Landa was way so it was that front group, Dan Martin, Urán, Froome, Barguil, and Bardet, then Mikel Landa, and then Louis Meintjes and Aru, right? So that was like the split. And somehow Mikel Landa like switched spots with Dan Martin. Dan Martin went backwards, Mikel went forwards. Super crazy. I watched the stage like so many times trying to figure out how that exactly happened. So then Mikel Landa helps drive that. Dan Martin ends up going back with Aru, and Dan Martin lose a ton of time, which is, a bummer for those guys. A bummer for Martin. I don't really like Aru, so not good for you, Aru. Froome sprints actually super well. He comes through everyone, gets third. Rigoberto Urán gets second. So he actually put some time in the yellow jersey, and Roglic gets his W. So pretty exciting stage. Let's talk winners and losers, stage 17. Winner, obviously, Roglic. Dude, this guy, I mean, he was down in the big wreck that took Kittel out and a lot of other guys, and so somehow he was able to just get to the front and just do it. Was in the right place at the right time, and just, man, he rode a really smart race. So awesome to him. I don't really know much about him. I know that he was like some ski jumper or something, but winner, Mikel Landa does a killer descent. And again, like I was kind of saying, I don't really understand how it happened. You can't really see it happen, but he somehow was maybe 10 seconds behind the front group. Dan Martin was on the front group. Dan Martin doesn't descend very well. Mikel Landa like is able to pass Dan Martin and get on that front group. And so now, you know, Mikel Landa's got a real good shot. If he does a killer TT, could possibly break into the top 3. It's possible. So good job to Mikel Landa. Winner, Michael Matthews. Basically, green jersey is his now. He was already killing it with his action, with the ability for him to make points up on Kittel in these certain stages, kind of pulling a Peter Sagan. And but you know, unfortunately, loser Kittel wrecks and then drops out of the Tour, which is such a bummer. You know what I mean? That green jersey was coming down to a really exciting finish. Like, it probably was going to come down to who won that final sprint. So man, it's just such a bummer that was shaping up to be something so great. Kittel just succumbs to the injuries. He was all busted up, wasn't gonna make it up the last, you know, million feet of climbing that they had to do, and he pulled out. So a lot of amazing sprinters not making it to the finish. So that kind of opens it up for Greipel to win in Paris. Winner, Barguil, pretty much like laying it down on the King of the Mountains. Dude, this guy, again, I don't really understand why he's so far down in the GC. Like, he's always with these guys. He's always with the main contenders. So I don't know what happened in the very first few stages that put him so far down to make him kind of not really a top GC contender. But I think that if he keeps riding like this, he will probably move in the top 10. So, dude, Warren is just murking it. Loser, Contador. I honestly think that without his mechanical, Contador might have been able to at least get to the finish with Roglic. You know what I mean? I think that if he hadn't had the mechanical, he might have been able to stay with him when they attacked, because Roglic won by like just over a minute. And if you really think about how much time that mechanical took from him, close to that, right? 40 seconds, right, ish, that he had to then make up. And so then you think of all the energy you had to do to make up that time. I think that, and it's such a bummer because Contador played it so well. Like, he was riding so well, bridged such a massive gap. It was really exciting to watch him do that. So to then have him have a mechanical and his team worked so well, that's such a bummer for him. So it's a big loss for Contador and the team. Loser, Aru and Martin. Mostly I would say Martin, right? Because Aru is always off the back. Like, he did not have it on this climb. He was never like on the front attacking or doing anything. He was just hanging on for dear life. But Dan Martin was on the attack. He was putting everyone into trouble, making these big attacks, and he got over the top with everybody. And then maybe he's super spooked about the descent because of with him in port. But that's probably the biggest loss, right? Aru loses time for sure, but he just didn't have it on the climb. Martin loses time on the descent. That's a bummer. So it's really looking like the final GC, like, and we're gonna see tomorrow on the hilltop finish. But dude, Rigoberto Urán stands a really good chance of possibly winning the Tour de France. Like, if Froome has any issues in the time trial, you know, everyone's been saying that Rigoberto Urán could actually put time into Froome. I don't necessarily think that that's true. I think Froome's gonna just light up the time trial. But if there is any issue, if he has a flat or a missed gear change or whatever, Rigoberto Urán has been just solid. I hope to see Froome just drill it. I want to see him attack, dude. I want to see him so hard, you know, and go for it. Sorry about the pronunciation of the names. I can't even pronounce. It just is what it is. There you go. Vegan Cyclist. Yeah.